Now I want to sing songs. I'm grandpa and I'm halfway up that hill. And I'm looking down at people going, man, I'm tired. I don't think I can make it. It's too much. The world is too heavy. And I'm going, yes, you can. Come on. Grab my hand. Here's a few things I learned to help you.
What does it mean to be authentic, to follow your heart, and to persevere through tough times? And how can music support and energize you on your journey to becoming the best version of yourself? Friends, we are really excited to have as our guest today someone who we feel embodies authenticity, perseverance, and has been making great music for decades. We can't wait for him to share his journey with us. So welcome to the most exciting adventure of your life. Welcome to a new way of living, and welcome to season 2 of the Fierce Planet Adventures podcast.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Casey.
And I'm Andy, and we are on a mission to inspire and guide 1 million people to live a life of purpose, passion, and self-mastery through the 5 mountains of cutting-edge development and mental fitness.
Wow.
Today, we're speaking with international recording artist, legendary bassist, frontman, and songwriter for the genre-bending group King's X, Doug Pinnick. Doug's music career spans over 50 years. His latest project, Joy Bomb, just dropped on October 15th, and his Grinder Blues project released their second album, El Dos, on September 24th. Additionally, Doug is currently working on KXM's third album with George Lynch of Dokken and Ray Luzier of Korn. Past projects include Pinnick Gill's Prison, Supershine, Trace Mountains with Jeff Ament of Pearl Jam, and one of our personal favorites, Pound Hound. Massive grooves from the Electric Church of psychofunkadelic grudgelism rock music.
Wow, you said the whole name of the first Massive Grooves. I can't even say it anymore. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I did practice a little to get it all out.
You have to. Jeez.
Doug, we always like to break the ice with an opening question for everybody. And what are you most excited about in your life right now?
I'm most excited about being in my early 70s because statistically, that's supposed to be your happiest years. And it really is. Somehow I made it up to this point and my 70s are happy. So there's a lot of people that aren't happy at 70, but I've been blessed.
Beautiful.
Oh, that's great.
Doug, we want to give our listeners an idea of who you are and what your journey's been like. Would you mind taking a few minutes to share your story with us?
Sure. Is there anything specific? Because I could go for hours.
Yeah. Well, I guess what intrigues me is where you started out in your childhood and just the progression of going through the different stages.
Right.
We did the early King's X and that mindset versus today. And just being, the authentic, the person who you are now, being authentic and open and coming to this space that you're in right now.
I understand. When I was about maybe, I will start here. My mother said that I cried when she turned the stereo off. And she said when she turned the record player off, I'd yell, give me yays, because I couldn't talk. And she said I would cry. So she said, I always wonder what's he going to turn out to be. She said she wondered. And I was always obsessed with music. All my relatives, I was raised by my great grandmother and she had 10 kids. And all those kids were my aunts and uncles and great aunts and uncles. And they had kids who were my age. I had 14 cousins who were my age, not counting the ones older and younger. So it was a huge family, but I only lived with my grandmother who was very religious and wouldn't allow me to do anything like the other kids do. And gospel music was the only thing that she would play in the house. Everything else was sinful. But luckily, I got to go to all my relatives' house. And this is the honest truth. I had one aunt and uncle who played nothing but jazz. Another aunt and uncle played nothing but rock and roll. And another aunt and uncle who played, Chicago blues, basically. Because in the 50s, I was born in the 50s, and the Chicago blues scene was happening. Mm-hmm. And so the guys would come down and sell records out of the back of their cars, and my cousins would buy them. So from the early time, I always heard music, and it was all different genres. And even when I got into grade school, when the teachers saw that I could sing, they would have me sing in contests and sing in the choir. It's like 9, 10, 11 years old. And I always remembered that every time I sang, and I remember the first time I ever sang in front of people, I was very little. I remember that. And I remember when I got done singing, my uncle's girlfriend, I think it was at the time, came up to me and got on her knees to be even with me, crying, and she started praying for me in tongues. And then she said, God, make this boy a leader and a healer, and blah, blah, he's got a gift, and blah, blah. She went on and on. And I just I was looking around like this the whole time, like, I just want to go sit down and have something to eat, And it's always been that way. When I sing, I've watched people cry, and I don't know why. And I'm thankful and glad that they do. And I enjoy doing it. You know what I'm saying? I grew up in a traumatic kind of lifestyle too. My great grandmother took me from my mother when I was 3 and convinced me that my mother didn't care. So I kind of went into myself, and it was music and art. I just locked myself away in that, and that was my joy. In tones, I love singing, and I love music, but I love the tone. I saw a treble knob, and I would turn it, and I'd see the bass knob. And I remember when I was like 11, there was 3 knobs, and it was a mid-range. I'm going, oh my God. And I'd get yelled at by my relatives not to touch the stereo. Don't touch the stereo, Dougie. Don't touch it. Don't touch the record player. And I always, as soon as they turned their heads, I was over there just not, and they never noticed, but I had a little bit more bass in there, a little less high. And as a child, I didn't know what I was doing, but it was something that fascinated me. First time I heard a bass, a literal bass where it stuck out, was called Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. It was Why Do Fools Fall in Love. It was 56, I think it was. I was 6 years old, and I remember hearing that bass line. And from that day on, all I wanted to hear was bass. Everything else was okay, but bass was like where my ear was going. And so all my life, I wanted to play bass. I didn't start playing bass till I was 22 or 23. But before that, I just sang at school and in the choir and did my thing. And when I was about 18, a friend of mine said, Doug, you can sing. You should join my band. We need a singer. And I said, I can't sing. I don't be in a band. And he said, no, man, you can do it. Come on. And I joined up and I sang, and I never stopped singing in a band. That was, and I started playing bass about 4 years later, I think it was. And then at that point, I got good enough to the point where people would let me play bass with them. But whenever I came into a band to play bass, they always made me sing as I played bass. So it's always just been that thing I've been doing all my life. There was no decision made. It was just, I just kind of did what I did.
Nice. So you just came naturally to you. You had a tone, you had an ear for it, and you picked it up, and the rest is history, as they say. Now, I recall reading in one of the books that I've got on my bookshelf here that you grew up in Illinois.
Yes.
And as I recall, you said that, it was very austere living. You had an outhouse, a potbelly stove to keep you warm in the winter.
Yeah.
And so here you are all these years later, and you're living in LA, I believe. And this is so okay. Now let's fast forward to the King's X era, and the early years were heavily influenced by, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Christianity.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great music coming out of King's X then, right? But over the years, there's been a change, right? What realizations did you come to along your journey?
Well, between 20 and 30, I lived in the Chicago area, and I went to a Christian church. I was a Jesus freak like the rest of them. That was what we called ourselves at the time. We were cool, but we didn't smoke weed. And so I started 2 bands in that era of people that I went to church with. And I wrote all the music like I did with most, that I still do. I was always writing music since I was 18. And so we play all these original songs, and they'd be about Jesus, and we'd clear the room out every time we did it. And we had hope to get a record deal with a Christian record label, because we believed that stuff at the time. And there were a few Christian bands like Resurrection Band and Second Chapter Acts. These are like pretty big Christian bands at the time. And we were trying to get a record deal in their camp. And, you know, it was a whole thing. But when I got to about 30, the guys in the band said, hey, we want to stay home with our wives are pregnant. We just got married. We want to stay home. We got to go to work. We don't want to rehearse. We don't have time. And I thought, well, I got to go then. I got to go figure out what I want to do with my life. And I got an opportunity to leave Joliet, Illinois and move to Springfield, Missouri to join another Christian band called Petra. Mm-hmm. And Jerry was asked to join the band also. They needed a rhythm section. And I left town immediately. I said, I'm here. My door is open. And I thought, big time, I made it. And I get to Springfield and meet up with Jerry and the lead singer. And the lead singer says, the band broke up.
When I think about energy and vitality, I think about a kid. They have the energy to play, run around, climb things. That energy that feels like you just can't contain yourself. It's the stuff we've always wished they could just bottle up and sell to us, right? Well, this company's found a way to do just that. Amari's Happy Juice Pack. Mood, motivation, energy, things our bodies can naturally produce when both our guts and our brains are happy and communicating. And we can actually improve that process of communication across the axis of the gut and the brain. This is cutting-edge science. This is game-changing information. This is where science meets soul. This is Amari, and we're helping people feel better naturally. Boost your serotonin and GABA. Balance your neurotransmitters. Nourish your gut. The things that make you want to do. Start feeling better the natural way. Check out the links in the show notes for discounts and more information.
I don't know what to tell you. And so we went on to play with another musician for a little about maybe a year to try to figure out what we were doing. But when that all fell apart, me and Jerry just said, let's just stick together and see if we can find a guitar player. And this was 1980 at this time. So 10 years in between that before I met Jerry. So I was 30 years old when I met Jerry and Ty. And Jerry Jerry jammed with Ty, a couple little fun jams, but he really didn't know Ty. And I saw Ty play and inquired who he was because I just thought he was really, really good. He plays the same as he does now as he did then. It's just amazing. And to make a long story short, we formed the band. And I told them, well, let me backtrack a little bit. When we were doing the Christian music scene, there was a humongous Christian music scene going on with the bands that were selling millions of records, the gospel players and stuff like that. And me being a naive Christian person who just believed everybody was good and they didn't cuss and they didn't smoke and they didn't drink and stuff like that, you know. So I'm backstage with all these super monstrous Christian people that were holding worship services, and I see them on TV praising God, and they were back there cussing at each other and eagles were flying, and it's just bullshit. And at that point I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to make music, I might as well do it out here instead of in this little box where I'll be judged, I'll be with hypocrites, I'll be with this, that I didn't like what I saw there. So I thought I need to get out of here. So I prayed. And I believed that God told me at the time that I should start a band that was not a Christian band. And I said, Jerry and Ty, I said, let's start a band, but it's not going to be a Christian band. We're not going to do churches. We're not even going to associate with it. And we knew that if we did, we would be put in a box. And we would never be able to be who we want to be. So that's how that started. They still put us in a box in many ways. Christians still did their deal with this, but for us, it wasn't our livelihood. We didn't care.
Beautiful. Oh, that's great. So King's X is going, and you guys released a couple albums. At what point was there a shift from the early influences, and when did you decide that you needed to come out and make and live your life in the light, you know, be authentic and true to yourself?
Yeah. A little thing is I'm the truth teller, they say. All my life, I've always told people things or said things when I shouldn't have said it. If someone tells a big lie in the family in front of some people we don't know, I go, Mommy, that's not true. You didn't do it, you know? So I've always been that type of person. So with that, and my journey as a Christian, the more questions I ask, the more questions the answers made more questions.
Mhm.
And I started searching for what does this all mean? And so the first like 4 records by King's X were, what is this that gives me hope and send a message? They're always crying out to this God that we all are, I think was, the people that I believe in the church and stuff. And I was just thinking, I just need to know what's going on here, because people won't give me a good enough answer. I had too many questions. It's like, why am I an abomination? Because I'm gay to God, and it's the only thing that he hates more than anything else. Or why is it that, if there was that, well, we won't even go into there, but I have many, many questions. And what happened was I was like 44. It was right around the Dogman record, right before the Dogman record came out. And I went for a walk like I always did. He even wrote a song about it. I had been really struggling with who I was and Christ and the church and what they expected and going to hell, the whole pressure of it. And I was having panic attacks. And I remember I laid on the side of a bridge, and the water's not deep. It was just like a little ditch. It wasn't nothing tragic. And I just laid there looking up at the sky and thought to myself, well, the Bible says that God makes vessels for his glory and for his destruction. And I said, well, then I must have been made for his destruction. And there's really nothing I can do about it. I guess I'm going to burn in hell. And I thought, and I looked up and I started crying, like not a lot, just tears swelled up. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. And I just got up and I said, bye. And I started walking home. And I remember I got back to the apartment and laid down thinking about it. And I got scared because I thought, oh no, lightning's going to come strike me and I'm going to go to hell for sure now. But that was the beginning of the turn. And at that point, I started finding the journey of my truth, the truth that seemed right to me and made sense to my logic. And so that's where it started. And the Dogman record was a part of that. I Don't Care Just Like I Used to. And a lot of dark songs on that record. Black to Sky, it's just about, living in an abusive situation and then having an abusive religion on top of it, which is just not good. So, I wrote a song about it, wrote albums about it, and that was my outlet. So that's the crux to that. Yeah.
No, thanks for sharing that. That's beautiful. I don't know that how has music always inspired you along your journey? Not only your own music, but other bands too, right? So our premise is, Doug, that music as a vibrational energy has the ability to uplift us. It has the ability to change our mental, our emotional, or our physical states of being.
Yes.
And that's one, by the way, one of the reasons why we love coming to the King's X shows, because there's just so much great energy going on.
Great.
So what has that meant to you? I mean, do you verbalize that, or do you internalize that?
I've learned to verbalize it. It took me 60 years, maybe 65, to verbalize it. In the past, I was so attracted to music in the way that it bends and shapes. And, I love mixing records and stuff. I'd rather sit in front of a Pro Tools and mix an album rather than go make it. I just love manipulating tones. And as I got older, I realized that I was a manipulator of tones, and that a lot of people are, and that's why I feel them when they make their music, and we're empathic also. It's like we somehow can pick up the vibrations and amplify it. And they started making sense to me. And then I started thinking about biblical things where God told the Israelites to take their trumpets and blow at a certain time, and walls fell down. And then I started learning about sonic weapons and things like that. And then as I went into that rabbit hole, I went down a rabbit hole of the Anunnaki, the sky gods who
Mm-hmm.
supposedly created us and brought us here and genetically altered us to be who we are, gave us voice boxes, and genetically made us to be able to manipulate sound. The Bible says, God said, let there be light, and there was light. I believe that if you can mathematically say the right things with an instrument, you can create things from whatever the universe gives you. I don't know how to tap into it yet. And I have explained this to a few people, and they just kind of, they can't grasp their head around it, but they know that it has something. They know that there's something there. And I'm the type of person that I want to know. I want to keep learning until the day I die about everything that there is. So,
yeah, I think that, intuitively, instinctually, we know that they know that there's something there. There's something to that. In my very limited understanding of physics, the whole universe is in vibration, right?
Right.
And, things vibrate at different frequencies, different lengths. So yeah, that's, again, and we also vibrate. So there's that resonance that happens between the music and us. And when you find that wonderful connection to music that speaks to you, that's when you found something real special.
Yeah. That's what happens when all the bands that have been considered, have been given mad respect, were the bands that had the whole combination of bands had those people that could emulate that musical aspect or that sonic thing all together. And when they play all together, this thing happens, and we're attracted to it. I know that's what King's X has. I always say to people, King's X doesn't write good songs. We just play them well. And I do believe that, because people buy the records and they just go, whatever, but they come to see us live and they're crying. But they, and I finally got it. And I'm going, well, what is it? Are we just the emperor with no clothes? They come and they're nice to us, but they really don't like us. I didn't get it for years. But now I go, we have a special thing, and it doesn't appeal to everyone, but this is what we do. And now I'm happy about it. I'm proud of it, rather than going, oh, we didn't make it, or we didn't do this. And the other bullshit that happens all the time.
Yeah. Well, to your point, King's X has been around how long? 40 years?
40 years, yeah.
40 years. Mm-hmm. So what's kept you going through all the ups and downs? What's kept you, the band, going? I mean, because the music industry's changed completely in the last, 20 years or so.
In the last 2 years.
2 years, well, especially in the last 2 years. What keeps you guys going?
I don't know about the other guys, but this is what I do, and I'll never stop doing it. And inspiration comes daily from every ounce and every aspect of life for me. And to be able to be at a place where I have my own home studio, and a place where I can make music anytime I want to and continue to create, that's what keeps me going. So, and as for a band staying together, the truth of the matter is no one in King's X is going to break the band up, because we're not going to take the blame for it. Our egos are too big for that. we know what we mean to people, and that's like two people getting a divorce, and the kids are going to be mad at somebody, because it was somebody's fault, And the other thing is, Ty and Jerry are my brothers. We it's weird. It's weird. Like I would say all three of us are completely opposite from each other. And in another situation, we would never probably even get along with each other. And I can also say, and they will agree, that we hate each other as much as we love each other, like brothers.
Like brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Definition of a brother.
I know they could strangle me and I could strangle them, but we don't go there. We don't, because we know better. We are who we are. And the one thing I love about King's X is we really have allowed each other to be ourselves, I think. Or maybe they allowed me to be me and I wouldn't let them be their self. I don't know. But I felt like, I was able to, do what to be able to create with these two guys and feel good about it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it brings up a question for me. Is there any point along this King's X journey when you guys just thought, hey, this is really tough and this isn't working out the way we expected? Should we
Yes.
go our separate ways?
Yes. We did that 3 times. First time we were in Sedalia, Missouri, doing cover music in this bar. No, it was Odessa, Texas. We were doing cover music, 4 sets. There was 5 people in the place. The club owner kept telling us to turn down to the point where all we had on was the monitors and the amps were so low you could barely hear them. Then we got fired after 2 days, and we went back to the hotel and said, we've been doing this for like 5 years now, and this ain't working. Maybe we should just break up. And we all decided, okay, we're going to do it. Is this it? And as soon as we said, let's decide now, all of us went, well, maybe not. That was the first time. Second time, actually, there was a second time, and I can't remember what happened now. Literally, I can't remember, but I do remember the second time. But the third time, when I knew that we all felt, not that we're going to break up, but we felt like the dream was not going to happen, was when we played Woodstock 94.
If you've been listening to our podcast or following us on socials, it's probably no surprise to you that I've been dealing with back issues for many years. And I want to take a moment just to tell you about something that I found that's helped me with my flexibility and durability and mobility. And that's called Kokoro Yoga, somatic warrior training. It's not just yoga. It also includes Tai Chi, Qigong, visualization, meditation, and breathwork practices such as Fit Warrior, Fighting Warrior, which incorporates functional fitness and some martial arts movements. And it's been just a really great way for me to maintain some flexibility and durability as I move through our challenges when we go and do Spartan races and climb mountains. So if this sounds like it's something that could help you out, check it out. The link's in the show notes.
Dogman had just come out. Song was being played on MTV. Record wasn't selling real well, but it had just come out also. Atlantic was really pushing, and they had high hopes. And so we did Woodstock. Jeff Rowland, his name was. He was one of the guys that put on Woodstock, and he says we're one of his favorite bands, and he got us on there on a Friday night, right when the sun went down. Perfect time, perfect spot.
Beautiful.
He said, Doug, you should have seen the fight that went on to get you guys that spot. Because when I ran into him at Woodstock, I go, so you put this on? He goes, yeah, me and some other people. And I go, so you're the reason why we're here. Because at that point, I had never thought that King's X had sold enough records or did enough MTV and all that stuff to be on that level of a show. Because we had really never really done that before. All the other festivals always looked us over. So when Woodstock came along, I'm going, this is bigger than all of them, and they want us to play. And I'm going, whoa. So we did it. I mean, but the thing was, at that point, I felt like we were put on as a favor. So my heart sunk. And so we went on, and I remember almost 300,000 people. We rocked our socks off, and I thought we bombed because I had never played in front of that many people before, and there's a different vibe that happens. And I didn't understand it. And the guys in other bands told me, said, just play to yourself. You can't reach him. You can't see him. Don't worry about it. And as me, well, I'm going to reach him like Bono does. And I didn't. So that was, instead of me enjoying it, I'm beating myself up for trying to do something that was impossible. So anyway, we did that show, and I remember I watched the Friday. A couple days later, my roommate videoed the whole day, MTV videoed every band a song on that Friday, and they played King's X later on that night, and we did Manic Depression, and then we went and had a little interview with Kurt Loder, I think it was, or one of the guys. And he was talking about we were his favorite band that day. He said we woke the crowd up. It was so awesome. The sun went down. He said everybody was really tired, but when we came out there, they said that so it was great conversation. So the next day, Also, Howard Stern said King's X blew every band away on Friday. And USA Today said the top 5 bands were Metallica, Nine Inch Nails, King's X, and I forgot what the other 2 was. So I'm going, oh my God, this is going to be great. Because first Woodstock came around, I was 19, and all those bands played, got huge. And I'm thinking, this is it. And 2 weeks later, we checked album sales. 250 records were sold in the upstate New York area, and the record tanked. And we played Jon Stewart a few days later, and that's when Ty cut his hair off and said, I guess it ain't gonna happen. He just as a gesture, he shaved all his head off. And if you see the Jon Stewart show a couple days later, he's bald. And Jon Stewart says, I heard these guys blew everybody away at Woodstock. I don't know about that, but I love this band, King's X. And we played Jon Stewart show and did a couple songs. I mean, we were doing everything like the rest of the bands are doing. And it just, we did, the people, all the people in the hierarchy loved us, but the people didn't buy the records. Rick Krim at MTV said, we'll always play King's X as long as I'm here. Would you give me a King's X cap? And I gave him one just like yours.
Nice.
And then he left a couple of years later.
Yeah.
But so, that's the way our career has been. So we've seen the ups and downs of it, the excitement and the letdown. And then, like you were saying, where do you go after that? Well, you just go, I'm going to make music for me. And we have enough people that seem to like it. And I can make a living at this. We can go tour and play for crowds of between 200 people to 2,000 people, all depends on how big the city is. And, with the road crew and the whole deal. So, we can survive. I can pay my monthly bills, and that's all I want. And I'm on Social Security now anyway. So between the two, I'm okay.
Beautiful. What a roller coaster of emotions you just described. And when you put so much of yourself into a project like that, you're calling, and you're just not getting the traction that you expected or that you thought would come. That hurts a little bit. And it just, being able to pick yourself up, change your perspective, and move on, I think, perseverance and the courage to do that is just amazing to me. So
thanks.
I'm glad that you have.
Cool.
So
those are my years of 40s too.
So yeah, actually,
most people said I should have quit when I was 25.
Well,
I was gonna say, how many other people told you to quit?
No one really told me to quit per se. They more said things like, when are you gonna be stop playing some soul music that are white boy music? Or my mom said one time, if you sang soul music, you might have made it. Or something, there's always these little negative contexts of I'm playing rock and roll and Black people can't make it in rock and roll and stuff. That's kind of what it was for me. And also before King's X, actually, when I started playing bass, my pastor and a few other people in the church told me I shouldn't play bass. I shouldn't practice my bass because God couldn't use it because he doesn't use rock and roll. So I've always heard that. But the thing is, I didn't care. I didn't even think twice about it. Not even twice. When the pastor said, burn all your rock records, I hit him. I get it. I said, no way. I just, what do you do?
You do exactly what you did. Yeah, that's great.
I actually had an uncle that was a pastor, and I remember going on trips or when we go visit, he would flip through my brother's and my CD collection, and anything he thought was not safe enough, I guess, to go inside his house, he would pull out and stash away, and you can't have this in my house or this. It was so strict, and just the way he transformed. And at one time, I believe he was so much more just about the love and showing love to everyone. And I think that in itself was more the key to the religion, and to your point, God, as opposed to the stories we hear as we're growing up. I definitely know a lot of people with a similar religion
Oh yeah.
type story.
Yeah.
But
Oh, for sure.
definitely means a lot to hear.
So
Awesome.
I'm curious, Doug, to hear about your creative process. What is it? Just like you block off an hour a day, or when it
Oh
moves?
no. All my life, I've never really. I got ADD and I'm dyslexic. I've never been able to, and I'm very emotional. I do things because I feel it, and it's always been a struggle as a young person and going to school and learning. But after I started making music and I don't have to go 9 to 5 and all that stuff anymore, the last job I ever had, I only had 3 jobs in my whole life, and they were when I was a lot younger. So I literally wake up and I can do what I want to anytime I want to, unless I have to go to the airport. What I mean with the music.
Yeah.
So, and since I have a studio now too, and I've always had a 4-track or 8-track or something. So I'd wake up, I have a song in my head, or I'd have a drum beat in my head, or I'd go for a walk and come back and hear something going on, or I just sit down and I feel like writing a song. And there's never a moment where I do or don't or think about it. It's just what happened. And even to this day, I can't really tell you when I wrote a certain song or what was going on, other than there's only one thing that I know I always would do is on Christmas, Thanksgiving, and New Year's, I'd write a song. All the other times I was always writing songs, but those days I always wrote a song for some reason, because I usually stayed home. Sometimes I would go to my brother's or to my mom's, and I'd have to fly back to Chicago or wherever. But I really, there's a lot of sadness and holidays in my heart. And so I'd rather just stay home than to put on a show and watch everybody go. And the love is great. Don't get me wrong. When I'd go home, the love is amazing. But I just have this strong sense of depression on holidays. And so I would stay home and I'd write a song for some reason all the time. But other than that, no, I just write and write and write. And luckily, every band I've been in, they'll learn my songs. And I've got about 300 or 400 songs now that nobody's even heard. I got like 12 new songs now since I finished up my Joy Bomb album. Wow. And they just keep coming. I've been writing songs since I was 18. And as soon as I found out the way to put them on a tape, there was no stopping. And a drum machine? Are you kidding? Oh my God. I was borrowing 4-tracks and drum machines from people in the beginning because I couldn't afford one, until, I could afford it. But yeah, I love writing songs almost as much as I love playing and mixing,
Beautiful. What I'm hearing you say, Doug, is that you are living your passion.
Yes.
And I think that in and of itself is so rare for so many people. I think that's, one of the reasons why we have such a state of anger and confusion and discontent across the world is people just are disconnected from their passions and they don't know what their purpose in life is. And that was one of the reasons why we thought we should talk to you, because that aspect has come out so strongly in previous interviews we've listened to in person at the concerts, right? Which kind of leads me to the next thing is, we enjoy your unique ability to write lyrics and music that speak deeply to us and to so many others. And we feel that your gift doesn't just come through in the songs that you write. And like we've said, over the years, we've been fortunate enough to see you guys live so many times. But awesome. one of the things that we love is that it not only is it the music at the shows that resonates and vibrates, right? But it's you speak from your heart, and I think it's been affectionately termed by your fans is the Doug rap, right?
Yeah.
And could you tell us a little bit more about the Doug rap? And is it like a stream of consciousness, a flow state that comes, or is it just something whatever's on your mind?
It's a combination of both. I kind of stumbled into it. Doing Over My Head, we would drag the song out. And one night, I think I just started like doing like a church gospel thing and talking like a preacher and stuff. And the next thing I knew, I was spewing out stuff I've been going through, thinking about or learned, And so it ended up every night I would just walk up to the mic and kind of open my mouth up and just start talking. I would think of what I watched on the news that day, or what was, because there's always, what's the word for it? I really, really, really work hard at trying to figure out how to make peace between everything. I want to understand why you feel the way that you do, so that I can not be so upset when you do that. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest thought in my head. So when I start talking as a preacher, the bottom line is how I learned that was I went to a Black gospel church, and that's just what the preacher did. He got up and he talked, and he was clever, and he had poetry, and he told you what was up. Then he'd start singing the hymn, and then everybody get all emotional. People started jumping and shouting and stuff. So I literally am imitating Reverend Singleton, but in it I'm giving myself. And what happens is like I said before, I've been doing this sermon for 30 years or so. And through the years, it turned into, like, when you're doing a 6-month tour, it's usually the same sermon at that point. Mm-hmm. So like Woodstock was the sermon of 94. And I look back at that now, I think that was at my lowest point, where I was angry about the way I was raised, and angry that parents didn't show love to their kids. And I just wanted to talk about it and let everybody know that if you have kids, make sure you show them that you love them, or else you're going to be like us. And that was my long speech at that time. But then I look back at now, because that was a long, long time ago. Sermons have changed. I've gotten kind of anti-political. I talk about us in the middle all the time, who believe some things on this side and believe some things on the other side. We can't go one side or the other, because we know it's not right. I look for those people, and then I want to share what I've learned with those people, so they can go share that to the people that they have to deal with. That's just, it really does go out. That goes in my mind. It's a subconscious thing more than anything. But when I write lyrics, I think about that. And sometimes it's embarrassing, some of the things I've written about myself. I just go, oh my goodness. Even my mom would go, Doug, do you have to kind of spew everything out about our family on a record, And I'm thinking, yeah. Or like my great uncle said, why's he got to talk about my mama like that? It was my great grandmother who didn't show me love. And I'm talking about that. And he kind of had a problem with that, but he never told me, My relatives always would allow you to be yourself and do what you do. They always were good about that. So anyway, yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this. I forgot what the question. Oh yeah. The other thing was, I'm lucky enough, and it's sad at the same time, because it was probably the biggest part of my depression, was living a life alone as a single person. Being a dysfunctional person, and the way my mind ticked, I understand now that I never could have had a relationship. I would have ruined it from day one, every one of them. Mm-hmm. And I did kind of that way even before they got to the picture. I chased them away, So I knew I severely was damaged. And so living a life alone, you've got to figure yourself out. You ain't got nobody else to talk to tell you your shit stinks. Mm-hmm. You gotta figure it out. Oh, put 2 and 2 together. And so that's what I've been doing all my life. And that's why, getting to 70, I'm happy, because I've found a lot of peace in all the things that used to tangle me up and hold me down. And the biggest one is I went down the rabbit hole of narcissism, and how a narcissist thinks, what they feel, everything about them. And when I thought about a handful of people that have caused me just to have panic attacks when they're around me, I realized why. I mean, there was hundreds of scenarios, and I just went into it. Like, it took a couple of weeks, and I was online just listening to this stuff, and it just, everything like lightened. When you hear somebody say something negative to you, and then you think there's something wrong with you for the rest of your life, when they were just a narcissist and they were jealous of you, so they didn't want you to feel good about it. And that's that was the problem with a lot of the problems that I had in my life. People would say things to me and it cut me down when they were just trying to hold me back. And it took forever to wake up and see that, because I'm not the type of guy that goes out and says, haters gonna hate, fuck y'all and all that kind of stuff. I'm not like that. I'm a really naive person. I didn't know anybody didn't like me. You got to come up and tell me you don't like me, because I think everybody should like me. Why? We're all supposed to like everybody. Aren't we supposed to just like each other? Yeah, I'm pretty naive. But I guess, where am I going with this? Oh, but I've learned, and one other thing happened. It was sort of an epiphany for me when I turned like 69. The nines always get you, and I had really got, somehow the depression in my life, I had suppressed it, but then I started just seeing signs and things, articles and things like that. Dude, you are super depressed. You're just shutting it down. And so I thought, well, I got to go down here and dig this out again and just try to get, because I don't want to just walk around suppressed, because it's going to explode one day. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to find that space that I'm looking for. So I went for a walk one day, and I had a brand new iPhone, and I filmed myself babbling about me, just crying and doing my whole thing, from day one. Oh, why did she leave me? And I've done that a couple times in my life. And when I would watch it back, as soon as I'd say, and I'd turn it off, because I couldn't see such a pathetic person like that. But this time I did it. And getting close to the end, I said, if you get to this point at looking at this back, then please, after you finish, tell me what you learned. I said that to myself, and I turned it off. 2 days later, I went for a walk and turned it on and said, I'm going to watch this. If it kills me, I've got to face my fear. Mm-hmm. And I looked up, waiting to hear this crying person. And I turned it on, and I watched it all the way to the end. And when I got to the end, when I said, now tell me what you learned, and I started laughing with joy and said, what was the big fucking deal? And everything changed at that point. Everything changed, and I didn't take myself so hard anymore. And it didn't matter, and then after I did this, the rabbit hole of the narcissism and the empaths and all that kind of stuff, everything started making sense. I'm a super emotional person, and I feel a lot of things, and I take them all wrong because I'm insecure. It's really simple. I'm a logical person in many ways, but super emotional at the same time. So all my life, I've tried to logically categorize my emotions so I could figure out how to just kind of find that balance and stay right in the middle where I should be. Jerry Gaskell always said to me, as long as I've known him, he said, it's all about the balance, Doug. It's all about the balance. And that's been a motto in the back of my head. Even Dimebag had it tattooed on his arm. It's all about the balance.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
I'll never forget that, because Jerry said that to him one day. Dime was saying, man, I drink too much. Man, I know I drink too much. And Jerry said, it's all about the balance.
This episode of Fierce Planet Adventures podcast is brought to you by 5 Mountain Coaching, licensed unbeatable mind coaching, integrated accelerated vertical growth across 5 domains of cutting-edge development designed by retired Navy SEAL Commander Mark Devine. Learn the Big 4 skills of mental toughness and resiliency. Discover the 6 pillars of performance. Test your mettle with custom-created crucibles across all 5 domains. Visit 5mountaincoaching.com to schedule your free 1-hour unbeatable mind coaching session. That's the number 5, mountaincoaching.com. Begin your journey to becoming unbeatable today. Beautiful. That's an interesting technique, right? I think that resonates with me. I think I'm gonna have to try that for myself. But
I was thinking the same thing.
Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting though that when we start to face our fears, when we start to uncover what's driving us, our emotions or our behaviors, what we see, how we've shown up in the past, it's very enlightening. And I think that's where, for a lot of people, that's where the traction takes hold. And that's where we can start really changing our behaviors and realizing that, it's what the false stories are that we've been telling ourselves. And yeah, we've been wounded before. We're human. Sometimes, it cuts deeply, especially if it's from somebody we love. But when you get to the point when you realize that, well, that's their behavior, that's their interpretation, and that's, I don't have to own that. That's theirs.
Right.
That it's very liberating and very freeing.
Yes, it is.
Of emotion, of energy.
It really is. I was going to say something. I can't remember what it was now. Gosh, I was trying to keep it in my head. Oh, yeah. I watched this little ditty. It was like 10 minutes on when you lived every 10 years and how the things in your mind, what you learn, how you feel. And like I said before, 70s is supposed to be our best year. And after that, it keeps getting better. That's what the 70s. And I don't know. I know a few people who are having their better years in their 70s. And so I kind of laughed at it, but I watched and thought, what can you learn from this? Because I'm having a good time. And physically, I am also. There's nothing wrong with me, literally. Nothing. I'm like I was 25 years old. I don't know how that happened, but physically, there's no physical problems. And I said, so what can I learn from this? And I thought, this is what I tell people now. Instead of singing songs about, oh, woe is me, and we're all in the same boat. Now I want to sing songs. I'm grandpa, and I'm halfway up that hill. And I'm looking down at people going, man, I'm tired. I don't think I can make it. It's too much. The world is too heavy. And I'm going, yes, you can. Come on. Grab my hand. Here's a few things I learned to help you, and just little things to say. A friend of mine came by a couple of days ago and we were hanging out. And I didn't know that his father was 100% narcissist, and it really damaged his mom really bad emotionally. And he grew up with a parent like that. Well, I did too. And I went down that rabbit hole. And so I went down in that rabbit hole and pulled out one little 5-minute thing and played it for him. And he said it changed his life, and he can't wait to tell his mom. He said, Doug, that was liberating. And that's what we need. We need liberation so we can keep climbing the hill, because life is hard on its own. Life is hard on its own. But with all that weight, that's what this one song that says, I just can't get rid of all those bags I left behind. I had to run to the world outside, a better place out there if God is everywhere. Yeah, I can't get rid of all those bags I left behind. I was still, no matter what I was talking about, I still can't get rid of it. And that was what I used to sing about. Now I want to say, I got rid of it, but I didn't. It went away because it took years for me to get to that place in my head where it made sense, where I could let go. Because we know we should let go, but it doesn't make sense. But we know, and we hate ourselves for it. We beat ourselves up for it. But when the bell rings and you go, oh, you just let go. You don't go, oh, I think about going back to it sometimes. It doesn't even matter. That's what they mean by you don't want to change because you haven't changed. You will change when you want to change. It's not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It's a, what's the word for it? It's a natural thing.
Yeah. There has to be the understanding and the willingness to go down a new path.
Right.
We can coach people all day long on skills and techniques and practices to help them elevate and change their lives. But unless they're willing to do a little bit of work, well, actually a lot of work.
Yes.
That's necessary for this evolution to happen.
Yeah. And it takes time. This is one thing a lot of people nowadays don't want to believe, and says, no, it takes time for you. Anything that you do. I mean, it's so sad when back in the rock and roll days, the earlier days, when by the time you're 25 and you didn't make it, it was over. And I'm thinking, you're probably at your worst at 25 playing music. I mean, if you have the passion to make great music, your greatest music will be right before you die. And how do you get there? You have to keep playing, you keep writing, you write shitty songs, you write great songs. Some people like them, some hate songs, whatever. You just got to keep going and enjoy the painting and enjoy the ride. It's a lifetime. It's It's not some people say, well, how did you feel when you made it? Or how did you feel when you knew this is what you were supposed to do? And all these kind of things. And I literally, and I feel sad because I can't relate to people that happened to them. But for me, I've always just done what I did. And later on, I look back and go, oh, that's what you're doing. And then I go, wow, okay. And I'm glad that I didn't know what I was doing, because I might have been scared, or I might have not did it,
Yeah. Right. You just keep moving, putting one foot in front of the other.
Right.
And just keep moving. And one of the neat things that I've heard you mention, you didn't come out and say this directly, but we're going to experience failures in our lives. Things aren't going to go the way we expected. And that's okay. That's part of the process. And I think that one of the biggest breakthroughs I can help somebody make is to understand that failure is not a dirty word. It's not the end. It's just an opportunity to learn something different and to keep moving.
It only makes you better. It only makes you better.
Yeah.
I mean, even with King's X's, I would write 20 songs for an album, and I'd come in there and play all the songs for everybody, and they'd pick 7. And somebody go, oh, that one, I don't care about that one. I'm not getting that one. And my heart just goes, ah! So, I go, okay, well, if it didn't touch them, they can't even vision them making it better even. I go, okay. And I go home and I play the song and I go, okay, well, how can I improve this to make it good? Because all it needs is maybe another part, maybe a key change, maybe this chord should be this chord. It could be the whole song sucks, but I'm going to go home and try to figure it out and rework it. And that's what gave me a more sensibility to write a better song, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
You had mentioned about being where you are at your age and having just being physically fit and no ailments, and or read many times that when we're suppressing emotions, especially lower frequency emotions and energy, it can actually turn into disease.
Yes.
So I wonder how much of that you having the music to tap into and release that energy and just attributes to your overall physical health.
It has a lot to do with it, because if you read up on what keeps people healthy and young, I'm doing it. Everything. Playing rock music does that to you. You're on stage, you're jumping around, you're sweating, you're doing what the human body should do, moving and pushing it. So I'm lucky about that. The other thing is, I got to a point. I can't remember how, because I don't document what years they are, but I got to a point later on in my life where I thought, you are the loneliest person in the world. You've never had anybody. And I would cry sometimes or watch movies and be depressed. And then I read this article about lonely people die earlier, people that are alone. And I said, okay, now I want to live till at least 100, because my Aunt Martha is 103 right now. And I want to live that long and be able to run up the stairs at Walmart. Okay. And I thought, in all this work I've done all my life to stay healthy, fit, and I'm going to die of loneliness. And that's when I upped it. I got to figure this out, guys. In my head, it's like, okay, I can't let this kill me, so, and luckily, and I'm happy to know that it didn't. I got it out of my life, so I'm not there anymore. So I think I'll make it. That's why I don't get hit by a car or get shot or something.
Oh God, let's hope not. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. So it's kind of a piggyback on Casey's question is, so I've seen you do some social media posts over the years with your workouts and your nutrition program. What do you do on a daily basis?
It's a lifestyle, and I always tell people that. And you have to start now, and you can't look for results next year. You just got to do it. I've been aware of nutrition since I was in my early 20s, when somebody said sugar's bad for you and salt's bad for you. And I go, why? Let's see. And we started reading up and going, and that's all we knew back in the hippie days in the early 70s. Those are the bad things. And eating organic food was supposed to be better but I didn't understand. But later on, as we learned about food and everything else, but so I was always aware of that. And there was this magazine called Men's Health, and all my friends used to laugh at me because they said I just looked at it for the guys in it, but I didn't. I never did. I was not attracted to buff guys like that. I wanted to read the articles on how your body worked and how it made you fit, and and so for years, 20, 30 years, I read that book and tried things. And I stopped doing things that said you shouldn't do. And I started watching documentaries on how the body works and what your body has to do to get this nutrient and that nutrient, and what this nutrient will stop the other nutrient from, of the whole rabbit hole. But this took me, since I'm in my 20s and, to 70, just continually learning little bits. But as a result of it, I've kept my body like it was 30, and which is really weird. But the cool thing about it also is it ain't all just what I did to get here, because everybody doesn't have my genes. My dad and my mom's family both have incredible genes. It's incredible. My grandmother died with no wrinkles under her eyes on my daddy's side, and on my mom's side, my Uncle Mud, he was the oldest one that died, and he was 96, and he had no lines under his eyes. My families all look way younger than they should. My little brother, Charlie, and his twin sister, Allison, they look like they're 21 now, and they're 44. And if you look at the Dogman record, I was 45 in that picture. And wow. So I got to say, the only thing I can think of is, because I'm an only child between my mom and my dad, I got a double dose of those good genes, because I look younger than all my brothers and sisters, except the youngest twins, which I met when I was 27. They're my dad's kids from another woman. But all my brothers and sisters, my one brother, he passed away a while ago, but he was like 5 years younger than me. And whenever we'd go out, he'd say, "This is my younger brother, Douglas." And I go, "David." He goes, "Just go with me." You just go with me, Douglas. Yeah, I used to have a hard time. People used to think I was a girl too, because you know how when you're 12 or 13, all kids just look like girls, and so they're pretty, and that's what I look like. And guys would hit on me and stuff, and I thought there was something wrong with me. And then I was having my issues of what am I, and why is it that I like guys? And so I didn't want anybody to know, because I knew I'd get killed, and the church didn't like it, and I couldn't let it. So it was the closet and the whole turmoil of that, on top of everything else I was going through. So
you've overcome some pretty large mountains. Congratulations. That's great. That's
thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And to still
I think
be
it's
smiling.
just being stupid. Yeah. I always say I'm just an idiot. I just ain't giving up. And to a fault, I don't give up. And I've had to learn, even in that, I have to govern that too. Sometimes you have to give up on certain things or people or a situation, because I'm not a giver up. I don't know why. I always believe there's going to be a better day. Doesn't matter what it is. I always believe there's going to be a better way. No matter what's going on in my head, there's something in the back of my mind says, calm down. It's going to be okay. I've always had that, no matter what stress point I've ever been in my life, from a car accident to, near-death experiences almost, Not to say I've had a lot of near-death experiences. I was abducted by an alien, but I didn't die. Okay. So that's another story we'll talk about.
We'll have you on for another interview for that one.
I would love to. Yeah, we'll do a UFO one, because I got a lot on that one.
There you go.
Say, now I'm curious.
Yeah, right?
Even more so.
Awesome.
Totally.
Oh, I got lots to say about that.
Oh, man. So just really quickly, the first time we saw King's X together, Brighton, Colorado, was that 3 or 4 or 5 years ago?
The last show we did in Colorado, that was a good show.
Yeah, it was. Right. It was, who was the, George Lynch was there playing with Romero, right? I think, opening up. Anyway, so I told Casey, I go, yeah, he's in his 60s. And she's like, no way. I go, yeah, he looks like he's like, what, 30, right?
I was like, well, he
Thank you.
looks like he should be the son of most of the other people we've seen on other shows. Like, I'm going to need to see an ID.
Thank you.
Anyway, so, a couple of questions right now. Now I'm going to do the fanboy thing, right?
Okay.
What's on your turntable these days? What are you listening to?
Well, truthfully, because the records just came out, my Grinder Blues and Joy Bomb and the new King's X. Whenever I make a new project, I usually play it for a few days right after it comes out, and then I don't pull it out again. But if it wasn't for that, there's a band called Vola, Vola, that I like. They remind me of what King's X would sound like if they grew up listening to Meshuggah and the Beatles. And I love the even though they don't sound like the Beatles, their harmonies over top of these massive math Meshuggah type riffs is like, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Let's get to the extremes and make it work. And that's what I like in music, is to take a different genre, a different idea, and put it with something that ain't supposed to work and make it work.
Yeah.
There's another band I really love called Sleep Token. It's one of those bands that you have to invest in their songs. The singer is sort of very docile, but very emotional, to the point where sometimes you want to cry with what he's singing about. And the music is like slow, but it's really beautiful. But about a minute and a half or 2 minutes in, guitars start happening. And all of a sudden, this changes come. And before you know it, in the mode of the song, there are these humongous down-tuned guitars playing this riff over this massive melody. And then they bring it back down to this almost nothing where it's almost crying. And the drasticness of it. And they have one record out, I think, and a bunch of EPs. And I used to play that a lot. I haven't played it in a while, but that's one thing I really love. And another thing I love is Yoste, Yoste. It's one guy. And his music it's not rock, it's synthesizer, it's not disco. You don't want to dance to it, pretty much. It's just very emotional. And that's what I love about it. It just moves me inside. So those are the three things I think that I listen to right now, that if I wanted to go listen to something, I'd pull them up.
Beautiful. Okay, so new KXM, when should we expect that?
Okay, as for KXM, correction, this will be our fourth KXM record.
Fourth of
Ooh.
what?
Yes.
Did I miss one?
Yeah. A Circle of Dolls or Scatterbrain.
Oh, that's
one.
Right. I
Yeah.
do have them all. Never mind.
Okay. All right, it's all good. We just haven't been able to get together yet with Ray and find our schedules. So and the COVID's been happening and all that kind of stuff, and we just can't seem to get things together. And Korn is out there playing like crazy. And so even when members get the COVID, they just go home and get somebody to replace them and keep going. It's crazy.
Wow.
There you go. Right.
Yeah.
Keep on marching. Yeah.
Yeah, they keep on marching. So there's nothing happening, but there will be a new record. Because I need that little bit of advance money to pay some bills for the next few months.
Nice. Okay.
COVID gets us all. New Kings will be coming out next year sometime. Like we try to tell everybody, just kind of hang in there. Our fans are really, really upset at us, because it's taken so long. But it's been 14 years since we did a record. And so it's like, hang on, because they're not going to be disappointed. I'm sure of that. This whole record is pretty much analog except for Pro Tools, and it's made for records. And we're working really hard to make the record the most incredible experiences you've ever had. It's like, we're King's X, and we've got to wow you again, or we're not going to put a record out. We can't. And we've wowed our fans a couple times, and then we put out some mediocre to almost wow me records, and we know that. We agree. We gave people what we were at the time. No more, no less. It just wasn't up to par. And this record is, man, it's our white album, I think. And when I play it for friends, they say the same thing. And so I just hope people really, really like it. It'll take a second to get used to, because it doesn't sound like a digital record all brick walled and loud and scratchy.
Mhm.
It literally, you put it on and you have to turn it up, and all of a sudden it engulfs you. You feel the warmth and all that kind of stuff. So we're real happy with it.
Oh, I'm excited to hear it now.
Can't wait to hear that.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Tour looks like 2022 is when it's going to happen, huh?
Yeah, and then Grinder Blues, hopefully we'll do some shows. They're talking about doing some shows, and I'm even thinking about maybe putting a band together and do some Joy Bomb tunes around the area. It'd be fun.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
I need to get back in shape because it's been 2 years, and most musicians I know that we haven't been out on the road for 2 years, and none of us are like, everybody's saying, man, I don't even know if I want to go back out again. I mean, I like staying home, and I don't know if I can do this. It's been a whole 2 years, and it's like I run out of breath just walking up to get the mail now. Somebody said, I'm going, whoa. But yeah, we gotta get back in shape, and we're not no youngins anymore.
Well, we're looking forward. On that note, I encourage you to do that. Get out and do the Joy Bomb. When you did the little mini tour for Pound Hound, that was amazing. That was great to see you in that little setting.
Thanks.
So
those are fun times.
Yeah. What would you like people to know about King's X, about Doug? Is there anything we didn't cover?
The sad thing about me, or the good thing about me, is there's hardly anything that I haven't told anybody. It's in some way, form, or another. I'm an open book, and I've always been that way. So I'm the type of person that says, ask me and I tell you everything. I don't hold nothing back. I never have. Like I said, I'm a truth teller, and I feel like whatever I tell someone, hopefully they can run with it and put it in their life and maybe learn from it, whether it's good or bad.
Very beautiful. Nicely said.
So where can folks find out more about projects going on? Website?
Yeah, just look up Doug Pinnick, Facebook, Doug Pinnick, Twitter, Doug Pinnick, Insta, all of them, Snapchat. Just type in Doug Pinnick and you'll get more than you want, more than you bargained for. Some of my best moments and some of my worst moments, they're all there. I'll just go to, if you're interested, just go down the rabbit hole. That's what I say. But first off, just get the Joy Bomb record and live with it for a while, and let me know how you like it.
We're totally enjoying it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And that's DUG. Doug.
Yeah, but if you put DOUG in there, it'll come up DOUG and DUG. It's weird because the internet just finally gave in. I didn't even try. I didn't even make it official. I just started putting DUG on everything, and one day the internet changed it to Doug Pinnick, alias DUG Pinnick.
Nice.
Well, you tell the same story enough.
Yeah, they will.
Oh, man. All right.
Oh, well, we can't wait till live tours go again and get to see you out there. And like we said, we just love being there, feeling the energy, and just so much of what y'all do is sharing love and what's part of you. And I think that's a huge key to what makes it so special.
Yeah, without the love, it ain't worth it.
Yes.
Amen. All right. Doug, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. You. Thank you.
Friends, if you found the Fierce Planet Adventures podcast helpful, please consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. It helps others find our podcast.
If you screenshot your review and tag us on Instagram, we'll send you a classic Fierce Planet Adventures sticker. For your water bottle, cooler, car, send us a direct message with your mailing address on Instagram, and we'll send you that sticker right out.
Thanks for joining us, and live fiercely.